All right, so the science-based fitness industry is absolutely killing your progress. And in this video or podcast, I'm about to explain to you why. What's going on, everyone? My name is TJ. Welcome back to another brand new Rugby Muscle podcast. Today kicks off the first in a new series, which is designed to help rugby players really cut through the noise and get the most out of their training. In fact, that's what we do here anyway with the Rugby Muscle podcast. So if you're new here, we focus on all things physical preparation, including strength and conditioning for rugby players. And when we talk about rugby players, we're talking about all rugby players, not just the professionals. In fact, 99.9% of rugby players are amateurs. So I'm talking to you guys. And the idea of this podcast, the idea of Rugby Muscle, is to help you cut through the bullshit and build real long-term results. So with that in mind, the reason that I stopped doing the individual podcasts in the first place is because I'd gotten to about as far as I could get with doing these podcasts, as far as like giving you the best information goes. And the only way to go further, I had to go deeper, which meant that podcasts, YouTube's audio, like none of it really seemed a good way to put this information out there. And the only way to do that would be to write a book, which is exactly what I'm doing. I'm writing a complete guide on rugby strength and conditioning, which will be available hopefully by the end of the year. Along with that, as I'm like really dissecting all the different methods that come along with rugby physical preparation, I've also not just put these into a book, but I'm also putting these into different courses that you will find as part of your coaching if you're within Rugby Muscle, or you can buy them as separate courses on the school community. They'll be available very soon. And it's all designed to help you not just get in shape, but also really understand the principles behind what is going on to get you into shape for rugby and why we're doing the things the way that we are. It's not just about these are the 5 different methods of deadlifting or these are the 6 different exercises that you need to include. It's not that. It's really principle based to help you understand how you can piece together a program that will get you to be a better rugby athlete. So keep an eye out for those launches. There's going to be a lot of great stuff coming your way. And before we dive into this series that will be coming up on the podcast, I want to make sure that you hit subscribe, leave a review if you're enjoying these podcasts. If you want to see more, it really does help out. Or if you just want to support Rugby Muscle, that's one really simple way. If you're on Spotify, hit the 3 dots, give a 5-star review. I believe we're closing in on 100 if we're not there already. And if you're watching on the YouTube, hit thumbs up and let me know what you think in the comments below. Let's get into this first episode, and a controversial one. I really do think the fitness industry is lying to you, and it's not because of any malice. It's just the way the fitness industry has been forever. This isn't something new because of social media. It's just been amplified to a much higher degree because of social media. And what I mean by this is, originally the fitness industry was, magazine based. You'd get Men's Fitness, or you'd get a bodybuilder magazine, or you'd get your running magazine, whatever you'd get. It would mostly be like a monthly magazine. This was still already difficult. This was magazines having to stay relevant, having to produce a full magazine every single month, meaning, different programs, different information, different diet tips, different things that would have to be included in the magazine month after month, year after year. And eventually they would run into the problem of, okay, we can't just keep finding new things to report about every single month. We're going to have to sort of just like make stuff up, or slightly find controversial news that we can actually then potentially apply to your fitness. We would have to just give more and more and more information just to sell magazines, because you can't just say the same thing over and over and over again. You have to stay relevant. You have to produce something new. So again, this is where sometimes the science would come into it, or this would be where trendy new training routines would come in, because they would have to find different things for people to read about every single month. And now what we've done is we've changed that monthly thing to being a daily social media post. Like, I've experienced this myself, where I'm trying to grow my Instagram social media account, and trying to make a post every single day is It's hard going. And that's what you're told you're supposed to do if you really want. In fact, you're told to post like 3 to 5 times a day if you want to really grow your social media accounts. And to me, like, that's ridiculous. I haven't got 3 to 5 things that I think are important for you to apply every single day. I've barely got one thing to do without that overwhelming you. And in fact, that's why, 50% of the information or the information, 50% of the posts that I end up doing are like memes because like I just don't, I think that that's ends up overwhelming you. And this is why, right? Because you cannot, no way can you apply everything that you see on social media, and nor should you, right? Because you'll just end up burning yourself out and making life way too difficult. Like if you could apply 3 to 5 things into your routine every single day, that's 35 things, or that's potentially 20 to 35 things every single week, on top of the last week, on top of the week before that. So it means in a month, that's like hundreds of new things that you're supposed to have been applying. After a few months, that's maybe thousands. This is getting absolutely ridiculous. There is no way that you can do that and then stay consistent. There is no way that you can do that and make progress. And what happens is you get so much advice, even if it was all of this being good advice, not just advice for the sake of clicks, but like being real good, applicable advice. There's just no way with that amount you'll be able to take action on it. And what this leads to is paralysis by analysis. At best, you're distracted from the things that work. At worst, you're stuck in a loop of confusion, never knowing what is really important and just being overwhelmed and never actually taking any action. Every day there's going to be something new, whether it's the latest exercise trend or a slight tweak to one technique, a nutrition hack, or a study claiming to, you know, making the next big breakthrough with fat loss, or how to make the most amount of progress with your strength or with your hypertrophy. And this is all a nonsense. It's all misleading. It's all just done to stay relevant for these businesses, social media accounts, whatever it is. It's all done in an attempt to stay relevant, in an attempt to stay in the forefront of your mind, and not really with the intention to get you the best results. And even if it is once a week or once a day, real good actionable information, you're not just getting your information from one source. So it always ends up being overwhelming. And like at best, this is again like just overwhelming you, and at worst it's directly misleading you. And this includes people that only claim to be evidence-based practitioners, because again it's all a nonsense, because you can misrepresent what the science actually says, let alone whether the science in itself is even relevant. And a classic example of this is a post I saw. If I could find it, I'll put a little picture of what I saw here. And this is Menno Henselmans saying that high rep squats equals cardio, and it is actually cardio. And again, that is not information that is useful for you as an athlete in any way. Technically, this science showed that maybe there's a small cardiac stimulus that can be done with people that are out of shape in a 20 rep squat, but the effort is so short lived that it's absolutely worth it. And if you want to be, in the best aerobic shape, 20 rep squats is not the way to do that. And he knows this. He's directly or purposefully, I would say, misleading, because it creates a controversial title, which means the post does really well, which means that his social media account grows, which means he gets more eyes on his business and eventually will make more money. But reality is, this post is a nonsense. It's worthless. High rep squats is not a good way to do cardio, and it's definitely not a good way to develop your aerobic system if you want to be a good rugby athlete. But you wouldn't know that upon reading this post. Like, even the authors of the study mentioned that this is not a good way to become fit. This is not a way to work your cardio system. There's a tiny stimulus, not worth it, right? So like, again, this is kind of the worst, right? It directly misrepresenting the data, and again, for nothing else other than clicks. And even if we're looking at real good solid science, it's so far behind like practical experience. If you were to only do like science-based stuff to try to be the best rugby athlete, you're so limited in your options because the science does kind of lag behind what has already been proven in the gym by athletes, by bodybuilders, other practical sources. We can just see it. We don't need like data to tell us that sprints help us get faster. If we have to wait for this sort of data, we're going to be so far behind. We don't need data to tell us. I don't need data to tell me that doing lots of zone 2 cardio work will improve your rugby performance if you're out of shape, or even if you're in good shape, because of the fact that it helps the aerobic system, and we know that rugby is fueled by the aerobic system. I don't need a scientific study to tell me that. I've seen it, and to get that study would be really difficult to do because of the way these studies are set up. And again, we've seen this from strength athletes, from other practical sources, from even people like Lyle McDonald, who like hasn't updated his blog in years because he's said all of the he stayed evidence based, and he hasn't had to update the vast majority of his articles that he wrote decades ago because they still ring true today, even though they might have not have been like perfectly flushed out in scientific journals. He was right, and like he doesn't need to keep updating his social media presence because he doesn't wish to, right? And the research ends up catching on, and proving what we already knew, because it's not just like science isn't just what we can see in studies. Science is, day to day. You see science in your own progress. That is still your own research. That is still your own evidence based, right? If you see that making a slight tweak to your routine improves you, that is you basing that off your own evidence. So to say evidence based is sort of also an absolute nonsense. And this is seen so plainly, so obviously when it comes to the hypertrophy research. You've got all of these people that want to be evidence-based and only want to see what the journals say and what these scientific studies say. But when you look at the practicality of what like hypertrophy research looks like, it's terrible, right? Because if you take beginners, everything can work with beginners. So you can even take people that are so untrained, you can put them walking on a treadmill and they will gain muscle in their legs. That's ridiculous. So that's one reason why the science kind of doesn't really work when we're looking at hypertrophy research. And the other is the length of these studies. When you're comparing two different methods or two different training methods or two different exercises, sure, we might see a significant difference with a 6 to 12 week study. But growing over 6 to 12 weeks isn't the goal. The goal is to grow over the long term. Does that 6 or 12 week difference repeat itself chunk after chunk after chunk to end up being a year's worth of difference? Is it still like, does that 10% difference over 12 weeks end up being a 40% difference over the course of a year? Absolutely, it does not. It does not. That's just not the way it works. So what these end up being are short-term studies that show a small difference that mechanistically might help a movement suit better. But at the end of the day, the muscle's only going to grow how it's going to grow. And that is only going to be based off, number one, your genetics, two, the amount of calories that you consume, and three, how strong you are, how much demand you put on your body to produce force and therefore grow the muscle. Think about the amount of big people that you know. How many of them are weak? There are just no massive weak guys out there. There's no one that's only focused on hypertrophy and has managed to gain a bunch of muscle and not get strong. They might not be athletic, but that's only because they haven't trained to be athletes outside of just the lifting weights. But when it comes to getting strong, the best strength athletes are also the biggest. There's a reason that weight classes exist in these strength sports. It's because in order to get strong, you have to get big, and in order to get big you have to get strong. These two are so closely interlinked, and we try to within hypertrophy research try to find the ways that we can only focus on what it is that gets us big, when in actual fact we know what gets us big. It's heavy compound lifts, getting nice and strong, and then of course a little bit of isolation here and there. But there, the amount of muscle that you can gain is only going to be genetically predisposed to you by your own makeup. And then you can only force that to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, you can't force it to get any bigger, but you can only maximize that out by getting as strong as possible. And that's why when we talk about the 5 areas of rugby strength and conditioning, strength and size are the same thing. You're training to get bigger and stronger. There is no difference. And that is only done over the long term. And like, that's the thing that all of this content and all of this sort of science-based stuff misses, is that bigger picture. The goal should always, always, always be long-term progress. I don't mean you have to hit a new PR every single week and keep going. What matters is actually improvement over months, over years, sticking with taking action every single week. You don't have to improve every single week. You could improve over the course of a month. Okay, so maybe this week in September, I didn't lift more than last week in September, but in general, my September is better than my August. Or maybe it's not even better than my August, but my September and my August together are better than my June and July. So I'm still making progress. I don't have to really overcomplicate this stuff. I don't have to make it really confusing, particularly when it comes to each of those individual realms, right? So when we're looking at strength slash size, when we're looking at speed, when we're looking at aerobic capacity, when we're looking at power production, when we're looking at movement control, we don't have to overcomplicate any of those individual areas. The beauty of those individual areas, or the beauty of strength and conditioning programming for rugby, is not overanalyzing those 5 specifics. It's integrating those 5 specifics together within a week so that you can not just physically improve, but practically do it throughout the week and even in season. And that's actually what inspired me to do this video, is because I was going to give advice about what you guys should be doing in season, because I know most of you guys watching this video or subscribe to the podcast will be in rugby season right now. And I was going to give advice, but then I realized, like, you've been lied to about how much you need to do with each of these individual areas. You just don't need to do that much, and they want to make it more complicated so that they stay relevant, so that you end up signing up for their program. But in fact, like, getting strong is not fucking hard. Getting big, like, outside of obviously genetic components, is not hard. Getting aerobically fit is not hard. Integrating them all together can be hard, but again, if you make them all simplified, it becomes so much easier, right? Does it really matter if your heart rate is at 135 BPM or at 140 during your run? Does it really matter if you choose a back squat or a heavy reverse lunge for your lower body movement? No, none of that stuff matters. What matters is that you're staying consistent and you continually push forward in the right direction that you want to be. And it's not to say that none of these details matter at all. It's just that they don't mean anything if you don't stick with your training in the long term. And the only way that you're going to keep training is to stay organized. Again, this is inspired from the in-season program. A lot of people just give up training in season because they're not organized enough to keep up any sort of training plan. So number one, you've got to be organized. It's the only way that you're going to make progress in the long term, because it's the only way you're going to be able to stick with this in the long term. And then from there, keep track of some basic metrics to know that you're moving forward. It doesn't mean, again, overwhelming yourself with the amount of data. It doesn't mean paying attention to all of the whoop scores and all of the different things that you can adjust and slightly make tweaks. It just means having a clear idea of what you're working towards and measuring your progress towards getting there. And ultimately, the key is not about finding a perfect program or anything like that. It's about taking proactive action towards your goals. That action, again, does not need to be overwhelming. It does not need to be complicated. It just needs to be consistent and focused on progressing towards where you want to be. Okay? Simplify everything. Where the difficulty of this comes from is in applying, okay, where do I need to simplify it? Because I'm told all of this stuff is important. And if that's where you're at, I would encourage you to reach out either in the school group to ask questions, to engage that way, or if you want to just cut all of that nonsense, cut all the thinking, look towards hiring a coach. If that can be me, great. I'll put the link to apply in the description below. If that means just sticking with a program so you understand what you need to do, again, and you don't have to think about it, I'll put the link to join Team Rugby Muscle in the description below. Hopefully that all makes sense. In the next video, I'll show you how to sort of apply these ideas for long-term training success, particularly when it comes to in-season. Stay tuned, because all of this is going to be laid out in the Rugby Muscle Strength and Conditioning guide that will be coming out, hopefully, by the end of the year. All right, I've enjoyed doing this one. I hope this has resonated with you. If it has, drop a comment below. If you've ever been stuck in the sort of content overload of the fitness world. I'd love to hear your story. Let me know what the biggest challenges have been in for you in cutting through that noise as a rugby player. And to stay up to date with this stuff, also we are doing the interviews. They'll be coming back, and again, it's all about practical information, what you can apply, what can be useful to you as a rugby player. Hit subscribe, and I will chat to you guys in the next one.